Okay, so we are now recording. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Lewandowski. I am the library consultant for small business development and technology at the New Jersey State Library. Welcome to today's webinar. This was supposed to be held back in March and then we postponed, but the information today is still extraordinarily relevant, maybe even more so as we move into the economic recovery phase, we hope, of the pandemic, and as things start reopening, and we're working to help job seekers and other library patrons to access all of the resources that will benefit them as they move forward in their careers and make decisions about their next steps moving forward. So I'm very happy to be joined today by members of the Division on Women, and I will let them introduce themselves. Francis, we'll start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Francis Blanco, responsible for women's empowerment initiatives within the Division on Women, Department of Children and Families. Thank you for joining us today. We really look forward to continue partnership with you as an association, but also the individual libraries. I'm going to pass it on to Maureen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maureen Oxy. I am the administrator for the Office of Support Employment and Training. I can't get it right now, sorry. And we oversee the Displaced Homemaker Programs, which are across the state. They may be more familiar to some of you as the dislocated workers. They're one and the same under the Department of Labor description. So that's who I am. I've been with the state, with the Department of Children and Families for 20 years and almost 6 years now in the Office of Support, Employment and Training. So it's nice to see all of you or hear all of you. Or have you seen me?
Okay. Hi, I'm Dennis Korn. I'm a program specialist in the Office of Support, Employment and Training in the Division of Women, Department of Children and Families. Been with the Department of Children and Families for about 10 years and the Division of Women for about 6 years. And in my current role in the Office of Support, Employment and Training for the last 2 years. So very nice to meet everybody, and thank you for coming today.
And just so you all know, this is being recorded. The recording will be shared after the session, and you're welcome to share that link with anyone you know in your libraries that may have missed today. There will also be an evaluation that's sent out at the end. And you can post questions to either the chat or the Q&A box. I'll be monitoring both. So Maureen, Dennis, and Francis, I will turn it over to you now.
Okay. So we go to the next slide, I suppose. Dennis, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I can start if you like, Maureen.
Okay.
Okay, so first we just wanted to give you, and folks, I just apologize before we get started here. We actually wrote this back in February, so absolutely went through it the last couple of days trying to refamiliarize myself with what we wrote. But if we're a little rusty, just bear with us, and we're going to do our best here. So just want to give you a brief overview of the Division on Women. So the Division on Women was established in 1974 as a state agency devoted to women's advocacy. And to create, promote, and expand the rights and opportunities for women in New Jersey. It really is the only government agency of its kind in the country. There really isn't any analog for what we do throughout the country. And if you break down our individual programs and kind of see where they lie in different agencies throughout the country, they're usually either in a state department or they're in an attorney general's office. So we're really the only ones of our kind. Andrew, if you go to the next slide. Can you, thank you, Andrew. So we are the Office of Support, Employment and Training within the Division on Women. And our focus is on economic self-sufficiency and advancement. And we have two programs that are geared towards that goal. One is the Displaced Homemaker Program, which we're talking about today. And the other is the Hispanic Women's Resource Centers. Okay. Andrea, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. So we have a lot of partnerships. We don't exist in a vacuum. We do an awful lot with the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, obviously. We offer 4 technical training days a year for our providers, and we also partner with the Department of Labor, and we bring in outside resources and outside speakers to give our providers different resources to help their clients towards economic self-sufficiency, because that's what it really is. It's about economic self-sufficiency. We also partner with the one-stop career centers, which provide a ton of services. One of our programs is actually co-located inside, or is actually located directly inside a one-stop career center, our program in Bergen County. And many of them co-locate when offices are still in use, spend some of their days in the one-stop career center to be able to have their participants have better access to them. The talent networks, that was something we partnered with through the Department of Labor, is currently in flux. It's going through a reinvention. We're not sure what that reinvention is yet. We haven't really heard anything since COVID, and we've all been at home. Maureen, have you heard anything about it?
I think that they now go, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you know this too, Andrea, they go by the name of industry partnerships now, and they are developing, it was all talent networks. It's basically the same infrastructure. They work with the in-demand careers. I believe there's 7 of them, although I heard there might be 8 now, another food one. But I think they refer to themselves now as industry partners. So that would be manufacturing, technology, pharmaceutical. So that's what they are. But we haven't updated that part of the slide because we're waiting for the official name.
Yeah, which is what we don't know. So, Andrew, if you go to the next slide. Thank you. So, just to get into the Displaced Homemaker Program, or the background for the Displaced Homemaker Program. The Displaced Homemaker Program was created through legislation. In 1979, the Displaced Homemaker Act was signed into law, and it established the programs to assist with individuals who have lost their primary source of income due to divorce, separation, death, or disability of a spouse, and who must obtain or upgrade their skills for transition into a paid job market, and they may come from a wide range of gender, age, ethnic, or socioeconomic backgrounds. So I just want to kind of spend a moment on that and put it into a little bit clearer terms. So in a nutshell, what it means is that they've been dependent on income other than their own. They've been inside the house as either a homemaker, as is implied in the name, or maybe they've been caring for a disabled family member. But for whatever reason, they've been dependent on some other income other than their own. And now that income has gone away. And they're either unemployed, they're underemployed, and they need upskilling to be able to compete in the job market. And that's where we really come in. It's about providing a variety of different resources to upskill them so that they're able to compete in the job market. It is important to know, as you see in the asterisk in the bottom, that even the name can be misleading. Displaced homemaker, most people think that it's exclusively women. Also, the fact that it's inside the division of women, people think that it's exclusively women. It is not. Historically, the majority of our participants have been women, but men have absolutely been given services through our program. And any men who come, or not just men, anyone who identifies as anything other than a woman, who wants to seek out services, will be given those services. Maureen, anything to add there? Or
No, I think that's good for now.
Okay. Next slide, Andrea.
Okay.
So this is a little bit more of the legislative definition of what a displaced homemaker is. So we went over it, but it's a person who hasn't worked in the workforce for a substantial number of years, but has during those years worked in the home providing unpaid services for a family member and has been dependent upon the income of another family member. Is receiving public assistance because of dependent children in the home, but is within 1 year of no longer being eligible for that assistance, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. Is unemployed or underemployed and is experiencing difficulty in obtaining or upgrading employment, or is at least 40 years of age and at a point which discrimination or based on age is likely. B, the point of receiving public assistance because of dependent children in the home, but it's within 1 year of no longer being eligible for assistance. That's a key difference. Most displaced worker programs use the WIOA definition or something very close to it, but that provision right there is very specific to. I am sorry, my wife is calling. Is very specific to the Displaced Homemaker Program. So that's an important difference. Is that provision of someone receiving public assistance but being in danger of losing it. Next slide, please.
No, let me go. Can I just say one more thing about that previous slide? One thing that does seem to get missed, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it out. It looks clear to us, but they must meet the first paragraph and then one of the other, either B, C, or D. Not all of them. A lot of times people get confused thinking they must, be part of A, B, A, and B, C, and D, but that's not true. So it's just the beginning paragraph, the one about hasn't worked out of the home or been paid, and then one of the following. In that also includes any domestic violence victim is also automatically included in the displaced homemakers. It's not in there because this is how it's defined legislatively, but that is a part of it. Just wanted to point that out.
And as a quick question while we're on this slide, so with some people maybe leaving the workforce because of COVID-19 to take care of children who can't because of childcare issues or things like along those lines, would they then qualify for this, or is that substantial number of years definition mean that it's a different group than people who are displaced because of COVID-19?
Did you want to take that, Maureen, or did you want me to take it?
I'm going to let you take a stab at that one because it's
so
new.
What is substantial? It's one of those like reasonable person kind of provisions that's always written into laws, which means that it's pretty subjective. So in this case, to me, if you lost your job, we're 6 months into this, or you had to stay home because schools were closed, childcare, daycare was closed. We're 6 months into this. There's no end on the horizon. We could be at home like this for another 6 months, another year. Nobody really knows. To me, that's substantial. You've been displaced to the workforce. Your income is gone, and you've been forced to make that choice of leaving the workforce to go home and care for somebody else. So I would say yes.
I don't know, Francis, if you have anything to say about that, because it is so vague when it says substantial number of years.
What I would say to that is specific to this situation where because of COVID, I would say that while there is some room for the interpretation, because yes, substantial, what does it mean? It would probably be after the individual has exhausted any other source of COVID relief assistance.
Okay.
Being that there are resources that has been specifically, identified within DOL, DCA, and all the other departments. I would think that if it got to the displaced homemaker, it would be as a last resort, but would remain open for consideration.
Thank you. I'll make sure that I have more of these tough questions as we move along, just to keep you guys on your toes.
Sure.
Keep them coming.
Okay. So catchment areas. So we actually have 22 programs. There's one in each county, except for Bergen County, which has 2. Programs serve the entire county. They also serve individuals from neighboring counties for various reasons. The specific training that the person is looking for is not offered in their county. Transportation is not readily available in their county of residence, and programs may share individuals seeking services from another county. So all of our programs are different. They function pretty differently. So just based on where they are. 5 of our programs are based out of county colleges. We have, several that are based out of nonprofits. One is based out of a family counseling center. So they're all a little bit different based on just where they are. So they offer different things. So we never block anyone off from receiving services because they don't, because that service isn't offered in their specific county. On top of that, a lot of the programs will refer back and forth to each other if they know that there's a service that could be beneficial to one of their participants, but they don't offer it, but another county does. So you're not limited to only receiving services in the county you reside in. Maureen, Francis, anything to add there? Oh, okay. So, like I said, there are currently 22 displaced homemaker programs. We have one in each county, except for Bergen County, where there are 2. In 2019, we established 5 new programs. They're in Camden, Cape May County, Mercer County, Salem County, and Somerset County. And that's what brought us up to having one in each county. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. There is just one caveat there. You'll see the asterisk. Due to COVID-19, most services are currently being provided remotely. So they're not really back to providing in-person services yet. Next slide, please, Andrea. Okay. So what are the goals of the Displaced Homemaker programs? So first off, economic self-sufficiency for those seeking employment. So what does economic self-sufficiency mean? That's another one of those nebulous terms that people have a hard time defining. We also say living wage. And what does a living wage mean? Pretty much the easiest way to define both of them is that you have enough money to meet all of your basic needs, and have a little bit of a cushion so that if there's an unexpected bill, some kind of unexpected calamity, you're not going to be pushed into some kind of fiscal predicament. Easier said than done, but that is the goal: is to have our participants achieve some level of economic self-sufficiency through jobs which pay a living wage. Self-sufficiency through partnerships, education, and training. So we are fairly small. Our programs are fairly small. We can't do it alone. So we're always looking for different partnerships. We partner with the Department of Labor very heavily. We partner with different education organizations such as the community colleges. And that's why we're here today, because we're always looking for more partnerships, more collaborations where there's somebody who's offering a service that we don't, and maybe we're offering a service they don't, where we can have at least some type of system of referrals, which brings the next point: to cultivate partnerships and draw from all available resources in the community or the Better State of New Jersey, and to engage in a dialogue with peers and community experts in order to learn and share best practices. We know that we don't have all the answers. We know that we can't do it all alone. We know that there are some places that are doing things that we can't, and we know that there are some places that are doing things that maybe they're doing it better, and we can learn from that. Thank you. Next slide, Andrea. Okay. Flowcharts. So economic self-sufficiency, back again to how do we get there? So these are the mandated services that all of our programs must offer. Like I said before, they're all a little bit different just based on where they are, what type of organization they're located in, and that changes what they can offer. But they must have job counseling and job training, job placement and assistance resources, financial literacy services, because we found a lot of our participants, they've never really had to pay bills. They've never had to balance a checkbook. They've never really had to do those things. Computer literacy training, information referral services. Just actually want to back up a second. I went a little bit too quickly. Computer literacy training. All of our programs are required to have on-site computer resources, so computers that the participants can use, and internet, free internet that the participants can access, to both help with the computer literacy training and also help with the job search. Be able to provide information referral services. So our programs are focused on employment skills, job readiness, but a lot of people, like Maureen said, someone who's a victim of domestic violence, they're automatically eligible to the program. So we recognize that people might be coming to the program with issues other than they need a job. They need a job, they need to be able to keep the lights on, they need to be able to keep food on the table, might be their most immediate need, but they might have suffered other traumas, and they might need services beyond what the Displaced Homemaker programs can offer. So we require our programs to be able to make appropriate referrals to services that the participant may need, okay? Short-term education certificates. So this is another point of difference with the Displaced Homemaker programs. We do have funds put aside specifically for short-term education certificates. So what is a short-term education certificate? It's any kind of credential, has to end with a credential, some type of certification, that's between 12 weeks, 6 months, something in that ballpark. So something where they can earn a credential and it leads to employment. We also like these types of certifications to be stackable, meaning that when they receive one certification, there's nothing that comes back that, there's nothing stopping the participant from coming back and going for another certification, maybe a higher certification in the same field. So the types of certifications we've seen customarily in the program has been a lot of things in healthcare, which is still continuing. It started out with a lot of CNA, which is home health aid. We have tried to steer our programs more away from that because it doesn't really pay a living wage. It is useful for a lot of people. It can be a useful stopgap. It can also be for some people who want to get into healthcare, a useful entry point. It gets a foot in the door. But even in healthcare, we've tried to help them get into more things like a medical assistant or phlebotomy, things that pay a little bit higher. We're also starting to see some certifications in things like medical billing and coding, logistics, hospitality, things like that. And the next thing is education services, which links pretty directly into the next thing, which is workshops. So all of our programs are required to offer a certain amount of workshops every year. And the topics of these things can be very varied. So we have a lot of things that are kind of common. So something on financial literacy, something maybe a lot of people bring in a lawyer to do some pro bono work and talk about certain matrimony or custody issues. But we also get a lot of things that are out of the box. Like one of our providers runs services on, runs a workshop on self-esteem. Or different things like helping to deal with trauma. We'll bring in experts from outside to do those types of things. So these are basically all these things that go into trying to help the participant achieve economic self-sufficiency, trying to come at it from a variety of angles. So obviously we understand that they need a job, and that's number one. That's the first thing that brought them through the door. But there might be a number of other problems that are layered on top of that, and we try to address them. And if it's not something our programs are able to directly address, at least refer them to the right folks so that they can be addressed and hopefully help them on the path to economic self-sufficiency. Next slide, Andrew. Okay. So the short-term certificate training, like I said, that is a point of difference for us. Each Displaced Homemaker program has funds available for that. And in addition to the funds, we can assist with certain things. Childcare while attending the training, transportation to and from the training, and the cost of materials associated with the training, any fees associated with licensing and certification. So childcare and transportation, we would love to have those things be expanded. Unfortunately, the reality is right now that we're only able to assist with childcare while they're attending the training, meaning the actual hours that they're in the training, and transportation to and from. The cost of materials, that could be uniforms, books, any other materials that are associated with the training. Okay. Next slide, Andrew. So we talked about when we were going over the different services that the Displaced Homemaker program provides, we talked about financial literacy. This is extremely important. one of the earliest things well, not we, because I wasn't there, but that was found when these programs started, was that you had a lot of folks coming into these programs who lacked basic financial literacy. And it's very hard to become economically self-sufficient if you lack basic financial literacy. So the Displaced Homemaker Programs, they'll partner with local banking or financial service providers to offer literacy workshops, budgeting, estate planning, understanding mortgages and loans, insurance, housing, credit, balancing a checkbook, opening a savings or checking account. This stuff, well, some of it seems very simple, but the truth is that a lot of folks just don't know how to do these things. It's extremely important. It's a big part of what our programs do. Okay. Anything to add there, Maureen? I feel like I'm grasping for something, but I can't quite get there.
No, you got it.
Okay.
And there's always things added to this, and maybe the gist of it is that they do use a lot of outside people to come in and talk in each of these places. Each different. There's more than this. They also partner with the law center, so they have legal people come out and talk to them on any of the topics that are basically asked for. These are just the ones that are that came with the training that they have to offer, but they include so many more workshops and topics on just mindfulness and trauma, like right now that's happening. They also have some support groups and conversation groups. So I just wanted to say there's a lot more than this. It's kind of crammed into here, but there are a lot of programs having to do with financial literacy, especially like credit now and your credit rating and what it means. People coming in teaching them how to get their credit rating better. It's something they probably never looked at before. And that's not just coming from the people of my generation that are, divorced and never handled a check before. This also applies to younger people who have come in, domestic violence victims who are still living at home, don't have the funding to get out. So that's another area where they're helped with. So we can go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got out of college being able to quote Shakespeare, but not knowing how to make my paychecks stretch from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. Next slide, please, Andrea. Okay, so computer literacy training. This is another thing we require. All of our programs have to offer it. Some of them offer more than this, but this is the minimum. They have to offer literacy classes in Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Like I said before, they have to offer free internet access to the participants to, among other things, aid them in online job searches. And like I said, a lot of our programs do offer more than this. We have one of our programs, which is based out of a community college, that offers some basic coding classes in addition to what you're seeing there. So there is more than that, but this is the minimum. And next slide, Andrew. And workshops. We talked about workshops a lot, but can't really overstate their importance to the program. So like Maureen said, we recognize, and our programs recognize, that we don't know everything. So we do try to bring in experts from outside to help out with the workshops, and workshops in demand careers as defined by the Department of Labor. As referenced at the beginning of the presentation with the talent networks, that changes what is considered an in-demand career. But we go with whatever those Department of Labor definitions are. Legal counseling and referral for a variety of reasons. Could be matrimonial, could be custodial, but heck, it could be other matters. Somebody who finds themselves in trouble because they've received a bunch of parking tickets and they don't know how to dig their way out of that. It could be anything, but we are in that field. But we do require legal and counseling referral services, financial services, which we talked about, and also resume writing and mock interviews. This is another thing that's usually important. A lot of people have never really been on a job interview, don't know how to dress, don't know how to behave, don't know how to write a resume. So that is a basic service that we require. And health and education workshops covering self-development, empowerment, and self-esteem. Just helping people feel a little bit more in control, a little bit more like they can be their own resource. Okay. Andrea, next slide. So how do we do this? Well, how we hope to do it is not alone. We understand that we're just a piece of the puzzle. We're always trying to, like I said before, we're always trying to start new partnerships, new collaborations. We partner with the Department of Labor Workforce Development. We partner with the One-Stop Career Centers. We partner with the private sector. And we're hoping that after today, some of you will reach out to us and we'll be able to partner with you as well. We're always looking for new collaborations to help our participants and help wherever we can. Okay, next slide, Andrea. Okay, so how we achieve our outcomes. I said we're in a lot of different places. We're in county colleges, we're in nonprofits. One of our programs is not actually located in the YMCA. That's a little bit, it's a little bit misleading, but it's run by the YMCA of Greater Philadelphia, not actually located in the Y. And we're also located in one-stop agencies. Collaborations and partnerships, state and local resources, family success centers, Department of Labor, county colleges, domestic violence providers, legal services in New Jersey, and pro bono attorneys and libraries. We're absolutely aware, like I said, and I'll say it again, we're absolutely aware that there are other entities offering similar services to what we're doing. The Family Success Centers, public libraries, and we just want to partner whenever and wherever we can. We receive our funding through state legislation, so our funding is secure. Looks like it's going to be secure again for another year. Andrea, next slide, please. We're very data intensive, or at least we're trying to be. We don't want to just kind of flail around hoping that what we're doing is working. We want to have analytics that support the decisions we make so that we're making the right decisions, so that we're actually helping our participants become self-sufficient, not just hoping that they are. Next, Andrea. Okay. Also, we have a responsibility. It's written to our legislation that the Division on Women, Department of Children and Families shall make continuous study of the needs of displaced homemakers and effective programs and services and funding available to meet those needs. So we have a legislative obligation to constantly study and assess the displaced homemakers to make sure that they're effective. And next. And that's us. You can kind of ignore that top part for the time being because none of us are there. But you can still reach us through email. Is definitely the best way. And we'll be very happy to hear from any of you. Andrea is going to make this presentation available. We're also going to give Andrea a list of all of our individual providers throughout the state to forward to you. And thank you very much for taking the time today to join me in my kitchen. And Maureen, it looks like you're in your bedroom there. Francis, you have a camera on. I don't know where you are. But thank you very much. And I hope it's been worth your time. And if you have any questions, we'd love to hear them now.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A box. I'll be monitoring both. And if anyone has already worked with their Displaced Homemaker program, or maybe hosted them in the library, collaborated on something, we'd love to hear those examples as well. I have a question.
Sure.
How has working remotely, how's that transition gone with these programs? We're probably dealing with similar issues in libraries, trying to reach everybody, the digital divide and issues with connectivity. But then also, when you're kind of used to being a place where people go, and then continuing those lines of communication and promoting those services can be kind of difficult when people aren't used to going to you virtually. So how has that experience been these past 6 months?
I mean, I almost feel like you answered your own question there, Andrea. but I'll try to jump in and reinforce a little bit. It's been challenging. So most of our services were designed to be in person. So things like you have to have an on-site computer lab, okay, where you have free internet access. Well, that assumes that you have a public space that's shareable, that people can just come in. So now the challenge of offering this remotely, but you know, the whole point you had to have an on-site computer lab with free internet access was because we expected that a lot of our participants might not be financially stable in the first place, which is what brought them through the door. So they may not have a computer or a tablet or anything of their own at home and internet access. So where are they going to get that? So that's been extremely challenging. And then just beyond that, like you said, like the libraries, it was a place you went. It was a place where these participants went. It was a friendly place. And just the challenge of going from offering those types of in-person hands-on services to doing it remotely. So that's for our providers. I'd say for us is that we're not a distant government entity. We spend a lot of face time with our providers. We're there a lot. So it definitely helped with relationship building, that they felt like we were a resource that they could reach out to us, and it gave us a better understanding of what they were going through and what their challenges were, being the people, the boots on the ground, so to speak. So it makes you feel a little bit disconnected now. It's a little bit harder to really grasp what's going on because you can't just go out and see it. So that's for me. Maureen, Francis, you guys might be thinking something entirely different. And if you are, please jump in.
No, I do have to say though that some of them have found it to be a good experience. They seem to be getting reaching more participants through their advertising or however they bring them in, but they seem to be reaching more people who are online classes. They've been creative with some of their funding and with funding they get from other places, with purchasing Chromebooks and some kinds of whatever, their laptops or whatever, and loaning them out so that they can still continue their classes, especially the ones that are in county colleges have been able to do that. So that's been going well. I mean, I would say it's not the same thing. People do miss the one-on-one time because there was a lot of supportive services going on. You know, the people that come to these programs usually are going through some kind of trauma, so that one-on-one is not there, but they're making it work by calling. They do a lot of phone calls and keeping in touch with everyone. So they've been creative, I'll have to say that. Francis, anything?
I would, you know, in line with what both of you have shared, what I would say is that now, you know, after, you know, probably in the past 2 months, what we've experienced overall as a division is, again, while for the mental health and the trauma, you know, that one-on-one is not there and is very much needed, but what is starting to surface from the anecdotal and some of the data that we have is that, in fact, because we're going remotely, for some of the program participants, it's facilitated their training and technical assistance, you know, because they're able to log on. They don't have to worry about the transportation or the child care. You know, they have it at home. So in some ways, the information, that data that's coming in and what we're gleaning from it is that for, at least for the training needs, it may be it's reaching more people and may be more effective. And as to the digital and linguistic divide, one of the benefits that we do have as a division is again, you know, Displaced Homemakers is one of several programs within several priority areas. And working, you know, where all our programs intersect. For example, we were able to secure CDC funding from actually our rape prevention education grant to set aside funding specifically for to address the digital divide. So there are 3 agencies, and if you're interested, I could forward you the contact information. There are 3 agencies, you know, 1 for each North, Central, and South region of the state, that have received, not a whole bunch, but you know, not a ton, but some monies that is designated specifically for anyone that comes to them, you know, for this IT resources, whether that's education, whether that's the Chromebook. And there's a lot of flexibility, even something as simple as, you know what, pay for the additional cost of expanding their data plan, so that in fact that they are able to log onto the training and not take away from the children. And that is regardless of where they're coming in from. So if one of our Displaced Homemaker programs did not have the funds to be able to provide these resources, they could connect with one of these 3 agencies that we're funding to provide that, and hopefully address that. So those just some additional resources.
And I think one of the reasons why this is so important to know is because libraries tend to attract families, they tend to attract parents, like bringing in their kids. And so in just some of those communications that may happen naturally, finding out that somebody might qualify for these services and the library can be a point of referral, or looking at the list of services and workshops that are offered, maybe through partnering and co-hosting something, there may be a different audience that comes in through the libraries that then finds out about these amazing services, which anytime you have an agency that's paying for education or childcare, I mean, I think that's amazing, the childcare and the transportation, to really make sure that the training is successful, so those basic needs are taken care of. I think that that's so amazing, and that it's definitely something that more people need to know about.
And I was just going to say, we need to build a slide in here. We do also manage 4 Hispanic women's resource centers across the state. They're also legislatively mandated. It's a little bit different, the legislation. There's one in Monmouth County, there's one in Ocean County, Camden, right, Dennis? Essex and Morris?
Essex and Morris, yeah.
If I'm correct.
Ocean, Monmouth, Essex, and Morris.
Yeah, so they have a little bit different, tighter legislation, where they are a provider for women's resources. They work with immigration. They work with, you know, English as a second language. They're also trying to get economic self-sufficiency for the clients that come into those programs as well. So that's something that it's come along slowly, but it's now on board, and we do want to mention that we have it, and we can also send out that information as well. Didn't want to forget it.
And we have a question that came in: how can we access the archived copy of this webinar? So it is being recorded, and once it is available on YouTube, I will send the link out to everyone who registered today. And then it will also be shared on the New Jersey State Library's website.
I'm just super excited that anyone would want to listen to me twice. So thank you, whoever asked that question. Unless that wasn't your intent, in which case, okay.
And somebody raised their hand. I don't know if that was intentional, but if you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A or the chat box. And if you hear crying in the background, that is my daughter. My husband has it, so I'm good. Right, well, I don't see any more questions coming in. So I want to thank you again, Maureen, Dennis, and Francis, for this information. And everyone who attended, you'll be receiving that follow-up email with the list of contacts for each county, the slides, the link to the recording, and the webinar evaluation. So thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're having us.